Welcome back for part 2 of our interesting conversation with Mel Harrowsmith, a life coach, and Mel specialises in living a purposeful life.
Welcome to Happiness, Health and Relationships podcast. If you're looking for inspiration on powerful, healthy habits, you've come to the right place. I'm Angeline and I've been working with people for over 10 years in therapy. And this podcast will cut through the myths and misinformation on healthy lifestyle. I'll be interviewing experts in their field, providing top tips and motivation for 6 elements of living medicine. The 6 elements are reducing stress, exercise and fitness, nutrition, sleep, reducing addictive substances, and how to master healthy relationships. Let's get started. That's ongoing, isn't it? It's ongoing for everybody. Talk a bit about that, how you came to where you are now, living your purposeful life, if you like. Tell us a little bit about that, how that came about.
Well, I probably had, I've had a very normal life. So, I grew up in West Yorkshire in a single parent family, went to school, did A-levels, went to university. I was already on the treadmill. That's what you did. You went to school, did A-levels at the end of the 90s. So back then, everybody was sort of encouraged to go to university. So I went to university, got a job, settled down for a bit. I'm on that treadmill. Not once did I pause and really think about what I wanted to do. Actually, that's not true. At the end of my A-levels, towards going to university, I remember sitting in the garden with my mum and having a conversation about university, and she was saying, you don't have to go. And already then, so I would have been, 17, 18, already then I was thinking, well, what would I do if I didn't? Feeling like I didn't have a choice, feeling that my only other choice was if I didn't go to university, I'd go and work, in a shop, which I didn't want to do. So I felt like I should. So straight away, we're into big life-changing things and feeling like I should. So that was probably the first memory of really sitting, having a moment. There was an opportunity there to really sit and think about, what do I want? And I didn't. No, we'll go to university. That's the treadmill we're on. Get to the end of university. Went to a red brick university. So although I never ever remember anybody specifically saying you must get a job with the top 100 FTSE companies, that was the general impression because I was at a red brick university. Well, oh my God, that's not me. Looking at all these companies, I don't want to work for any of those. So I finished university not having a clue what I wanted to do, and no inner capacity to sit down and really think about it, and no encouragement either from outside really to sit down and think about it. So just on the treadmill. So I was on the treadmill for a long time. Poor boundaries, perfectionism, limiting beliefs. I had all of those. I had all of them. The perfectionism, oh my God, the people I went to school with, I am so sorry. I am sure J.K. Rowling was a spy at my school and she based Hermione Granger on me. I was an insufferable know-it-all because perfectionism was right at the top of my agenda. So I am so sorry to my friends at school. I must have been an absolute nightmare for. So all of those things were just playing through. And then it came to a crunch point, 2019. And I was just burnt out. Absolutely burnt out. Couldn't cope in the job that I was in. Would get up in the morning, I'd drive to work, I'd look at those doors and think, oh my God, I do not want to walk through those doors, and physically having to think about picking my feet up to walk through that door. Absolutely burnt out because of my attitudes, my limiting beliefs. Didn't think that there was anybody there to help me. Couldn't ask for help. Oh my God. I mean, that's another huge thing. Not knowing how to ask for help and being okay with that. That's another huge thing. So couldn't ask for help. Didn't want to be a failure. All this perfectionist nonsense. So, burnt out. Anyway, so the opportunity came up for redundancy. And I thought, I've got to do this. I knew if I didn't do something at that point, I was going to be seriously ill. So it was a real sliding doors moment. So I applied for voluntary redundancy and thank God I got it and left. And it's really funny because other people who took the redundancy as well, they went travelling to Australia, they paid a chunk off their mortgage, did all those kinds of things. I used that money to pay my bills while I slept for 10 months. Absolutely exhausted. And I'm not joking, I slept for 12, 13 hours a night for 10 months and then came around the other side still feeling incredibly wobbly. But I had the space to think about what I did. So in that time then I thought, right, I'm going to do something completely different. And I happened to be volunteering at a charity for horses. And through that, I got into a course for equine assisted learning facilitation. So this would be running sessions with kids, vulnerable adults, to help them develop their life skills, give them some space and some time to deal with some of the things that they were doing. And through that course, I learned so much about managing behaviour in others and yourself, so much about the inner dialogue, the way we talk to ourselves. And I was just like, oh, wow, I've got a lot of work to do here. And that was really the starting point. I mean, I've done quite a bit of self-development over the years as well, but this was really where it started to come to a head. So a combination of that course. I also trained to be an equine healer, which took me down quite a lot of spiritual avenues and brought a lot of teaching in through there. And I got consultancy work. So I got consultancy work based on what I had been doing previously. And although there's quite a lot of helping others in that work, and it feeds into my need for altruism, because I've been doing it for so long, it wasn't satisfying anymore. And I got another bump. There was another bump in there. And I'm like, oh, God, I don't know what I'm doing. I've got all these bits and pieces that I've learned, and there's all this stuff that I wish I'd known but certainly when I was a manager. I'm so out of my depth as a manager. So all this information that I now know, self-awareness, I know so much more about myself. I'd really love to do this, share this. How do I pass this on? And a friend, she said, well, have you thought about coaching? I was like, not really. So I kind of knew what coaching was. Anyway, I went off and did a bit of research. And I was looking at courses and I was like, I don't know. And then I hit on one. And at the start, I was talking about those feelings and the way that you feel when you're doing something that you don't want to do, and the way that you feel when you're doing something you absolutely love. I clicked on this one course, and that area of your gut that talks to us all the time, but we just don't listen to it, just really lit up. And I got this, yeah. So I just got this really strong feeling in my gut. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is the course. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that was it. Did the course. And again, so much more to learn on there. So again, digging into the things like perfectionism, limiting beliefs, all these things that, I'd been struggling with for years, and started building the coaching business. And that was it.
There you are. That's amazing. What an amazing story. So, you said earlier that this journey isn't always easy. We're going against the grain sometimes, and so your journey to really finding out who you were and what you were about, that was a learning curve, and it took some work, some inner work, I suppose, to move through that. So, but that sounds like an amazing story. And I think when you get to that point where your tummy is doing a little dance or a big dance, I don't think there's anybody that can talk you out of it at that stage. That's when you get to that point, it's happening.
Yeah.
One way or another.
And you're right. I've had my own demons to work through, and some of them are still there. They're much smaller, and I can handle them. But there's some deep rooted stuff that's still there, and I'm still working on it. But what I would say is, and we started saying this earlier, we digressed because that's what we're doing. But what I would say is that when you're at the start of that journey and it seems absolutely terrifying, I think, oh my God, there's so much stuff to unpick, things I don't want to look at, whatever it might be. That is far scarier than actually dealing with it.
Yeah, the fear of itself.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And it is so true. And I know when you're at the beginning, you're looking at that, you think, oh, it's really difficult to accept that, because you're stuck in the fear. And I get that, completely get it. And I think if we can just have the bravery to step through, it is so much better on the other side.
Yeah, and I think that's where the 6 pillars come in. You know, where we can have a stronger resilience. If we are a bit physically stronger, we've got strong relationships, we're getting good sleep, all those things really, we're going to stand a fighting chance to move through that stuff. But it is scary. It is really difficult. And often it feels risky. A change of any description is scary. There's a risk involved, isn't there, really? Usually taking us out of our comfort zone.
Yes. Yeah, and it is healthy to stretch our comfort zones.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a part of life, isn't it, really? We'd all prefer to be comfy and, you know, just going through each day where everything's nice and safe, but the reality of life doesn't afford us that, really. Challenges are going to come along, aren't they? So the best we can do is to build that resilience and move through that way, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Because even if you have got it all sorted, you've got a purposeful life, you're absolutely thrilled with what you're doing, there's still bumps in the road. So the more tools we have in our toolbox, the more skills we have, the more confident we are, the healthier we are. You're absolutely right. The more resilient we are, and the more likely we are to be able to ride those bumps without them completely derailing us, which they will do if we're not healthy, if we're tired, you know, if we've got toxins in our body.
What an interesting conversation.
Good, I'm glad.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm sure our listeners will feel inspired, and just a great story to finish off on there, really. Some brilliant advice and some practical top tips there as well that can really help us with our own journey. So thank you so much. I've had an absolute ball.
Thank you. It's been lovely to join you. I've really enjoyed speaking to you. And yes, I'm looking forward to speaking to you again.
And that's it for another episode of Happiness, Health and Relationships podcast. If you'd like to find out more ways that you can work with me, then head over to happinesshealthrelationshipspodcast.com. And I'll see you on the next episode.